Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Super English Talks. I am so happy that you are here with me today. Thank you for pressing play and for giving me your time. I know your time is important, and I also know there are so many podcasts out there. That's why I truly appreciate that you are here, listening to this one. Maybe you are walking right now. Maybe you are sitting at home and relaxing. Maybe you are studying or even riding on the bus. Wherever you are, I want you to know this. Thank you. Your support really means a lot. My name is Jara, and my job here is simple. I want to help you grow. I want to help you improve your English listening and speaking. But I also want to give you something more, something that can help you in your everyday life. This podcast is not only about learning English words and sentences. It's also about learning life skills that make you stronger, happier, and more confident. So today we are going to talk about something very interesting, something very powerful. The topic is how to train your brain to think differently. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to change the way you think? Maybe sometimes your thoughts are negative. You feel like you cannot do it. You feel afraid to try something new. Or maybe you feel stuck, like nothing is changing in your life. Or maybe you want to be a more confident person, a more positive person, or a more creative person. If your answer is yes, then today's episode is for you. Thinking is something we all do every single day. But many people don't realize this simple truth. You can actually change the way you think. Your brain is not fixed. It is not a stone. It can learn. It can grow. And if your brain can grow, then you can grow too. This is not only about English. This is about your whole life, your habits, your emotions, your goals, your dreams. The way you think shapes everything. It shapes how you speak to yourself. It shapes how you talk to other people. It shapes the decisions you make, the way you solve problems, and even how you feel every single day. If you always think in the same way, you will always live in the same way. Nothing will change. But if you learn to think in new ways, more positive, more creative, more open, then everything in your life begins to change. You start to feel more confident. You start to see more opportunities. You start to feel more happiness. And this is exactly what we are going to explore in today's episode. How can you slowly and simply train your brain to think in a better way? Don't worry, I will explain everything step by step using easy English so that you can understand well. That way, you will improve your listening, your speaking, and at the same time, your mindset.
So stay with me until the end.
You're going to learn something that can help you not just today, but tomorrow and the day after, and every day in your future. Let's begin this journey together. A journey to train your brain to think differently and to live better. Welcome again to Super English Talks. So, what does it really mean to think differently? You may have heard this phrase many times before. People say it in motivational speeches, in books, in videos. But today, we are not just going to hear it. We are going to understand it clearly and simply. I want you to understand it so well that you can use it in your daily life. And as we do this, you will also be practicing your English, learning important ideas with simple words. Thinking differently. Thinking differently means changing the usual way you think. It means not always following the same thoughts or ideas that you have believed for a long time. Sometimes we don't even notice how much we repeat the same thinking patterns every single day. We wake up and think the same thoughts. We react to problems in the same way.
We say the same things to ourselves.
And because of that, we often get the same results again and again. But when you start thinking differently, something powerful happens. You begin to look at things in a new way. You ask new questions. You try to see new answers. You open your mind to learning, to growing, and to changing. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine this. You make a mistake. What is your usual thought? Maybe you think, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I always fail. These are negative thoughts. They make you feel small. They make you feel weak. They make you feel stuck. But now imagine if you thought something different. This mistake helps me learn. Next time I'll do better. It's okay. I'm growing. Do you see the difference? These new thoughts don't ignore the mistake. The mistake is still there, but the way you respond to it changes. And because your response changes, your feelings and actions change too. That is one clear example of thinking differently. 2 types of mindsets. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about 2 types of mindsets: fixed mindset and growth mindset. The first one is called a fixed mindset. This means you believe you cannot change much. You believe your abilities are limited. People with a fixed mindset often think, I'm just not smart. I'm not good at English. That's just how I am. When they face problems, they stop trying. They feel afraid of failure. They don't believe they can grow. But then there is the growth mindset. This is very different. A person with a growth mindset believes they can improve with time, effort, and learning. They think things like, I can get better. I can learn if I keep trying. This is hard, but I won't give up. They see mistakes as lessons. They see effort as progress. They keep moving even when things are difficult. Thinking differently often means moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Daily life examples. Let's make this even simpler with daily life examples. Example 1. Learning English. Imagine you want to speak English better. If you think, I can never speak fluently, your brain will believe it. You will stop trying. But if you think, I'm not perfect, but I can improve if I practice every day, something powerful happens. You give your brain energy. You give your brain hope. You open the door for learning. You start looking for new ways to practice. That is thinking differently. And it is one of the most powerful tools for English learners like you. Example 2. Trying something new. Your friend invites you to join a new class, learn a new skill, or visit a new place. A common thought might be, no, I don't know how to do that. It's not for me. But if you change your thought and say, I've never tried this before, but maybe it's good for me. Why not give it a try? That small change opens a new door in your life. You train your brain to be curious, not afraid. Example 3. Starting the day. Even in small situations like waking up in the morning, your thoughts make a difference. The usual thought might be, oh no, another busy day. This thought makes the whole day feel heavy. But if you change the thought to, today is a new chance to learn and grow, your energy changes. Your brain becomes more active, more hopeful, and more focused. This is why thinking differently matters so much. It affects everything: your feelings, your actions, your relationships, and even your future. And remember, thinking differently doesn't mean ignoring problems. Problems are real. Mistakes are real. Challenges are real. But when you train your brain to think differently, you respond to those problems in a new way. You don't run away. You don't give up. Instead, you grow stronger. It doesn't mean being fake or pretending everything is okay. Thinking differently means choosing better ways to think. It means taking control of your thoughts instead of letting old habits control you. And here's the best news. Anyone can do it. Even if your thinking has been the same for many years, it can still change. It might not change in one day, but slowly, gently, and powerfully, it can. Think about it this way. Just like learning English, Training your brain is not magic, it's a skill. And like every skill, it takes practice. The more you practice, the stronger it becomes. So every time you choose a better thought, every time you ask a new question, every time you try a new way of thinking, you are training your brain. You are building a better version of yourself. Now you can see that thinking differently is not just about changing your thoughts. It's about choosing better thoughts. It's about believing that you can grow, that you can learn, and that you can become more than you are today. And my friend, this is the first step toward a better life. Why does our brain think the same way? Our brain is amazing. It's always learning, always remembering, always adapting. But here's something important to understand. The brain loves habits and routines. The brain finds comfort in patterns. That's why, over time, we start thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and reacting in the same ways, even when those habits are not helping us anymore. This is where the idea of mental habits comes in. Just like we have physical habits, like brushing our teeth, checking our phone, or drinking coffee every morning, we also have mental habits. These are patterns of thought that we repeat again and again without even noticing. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who often thinks, "I'm not good enough." Every time they try something new, that thought pops up. Maybe it started from one small experience, like failing a test or getting negative feedback from someone. But the more they repeated that thought, the stronger it became. Over time, it turned into a mental habit. The brain learns from repetition. When you do something once, your brain makes a small connection. When you do it again, the connection becomes stronger. And if you repeat it many times, the brain says, this is important. Let's make a strong path for this. Think of it like walking through a grassy field. The first time, the grass is tall and hard to walk through. But the more you walk the same path, the more the grass bends and the clearer the path becomes. That's exactly how our thoughts work. The more we repeat a thought, the easier it becomes for the brain to think it again. This is why our brain tends to think the same way over and over. It's not because we cannot change. It's because we have practiced thinking in that way, sometimes for years. These repeated thought patterns become automatic. The brain is actually trying to help us by saving energy. It says, "Why think of a new solution? We already have one." But here's the problem. Even if that solution is negative or unhelpful, the brain still prefers it because it's familiar. For example, imagine someone who always feels nervous before speaking in public. Their brain has developed a habit. Speaking in front of people equals fear. So even before they open their mouth, the brain reacts with stress. It's not because they cannot speak well. It's simply because the brain is following its usual path. The same thing happens to many of us. Whether it's about confidence, learning, or relationships, our thoughts often follow old routes. The brain finds it easier to repeat than to change. This doesn't happen in one day, of course. It takes awareness. It takes daily practice. But the truth is, it's 100% possible. The first step is very simple. Just notice. Ask yourself, what are the thoughts that come up again and again in my mind? Are these thoughts helping me move forward, or are they holding me back? Once you become aware of these thought patterns, you suddenly have power. You can pause. You can stop. And you can choose a new thought. This is where change begins. This is how you train your brain to think in better ways. You see, our brain gets used to thinking in the same way because it's trying to help us work efficiently. The brain loves shortcuts. But sometimes, that efficiency comes with a cost. It keeps us stuck in old patterns that limit our growth. When we recognize these patterns and when we understand how they work, we take the first step toward real mental freedom. And remember, even a small shift in thinking can create big changes in your life. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just start with one small thought. Walk one new path. Your brain can change. Now that you understand what it means to think differently, let's go one step deeper into something very interesting. Something that many people don't know. Here it is. Your brain can change. Yes, it's true. Your brain is not fixed. It is not stuck. At any age, your brain can grow, it can learn, and it can change. Scientists call this ability neuroplasticity. Don't worry about the big word. Let's keep it simple. Neuro means brain. Plasticity means the ability to bend, move, or change shape. So, neuroplasticity simply means this. Your brain can change the way it works based on how you think, what you do, and what you learn. Think of your brain like a muscle. When you go to the gym and lift weights, your muscles get stronger. If you don't use your muscles, they become weak. It's the same with your brain. If you practice new thoughts, if you try new things, if you challenge yourself, your brain becomes stronger. It learns to think in better, faster, and more positive ways. But if you always think the same thoughts, do the same things, and stay in the same comfort zone, your brain stays the same, too. The forest path. Here's another simple picture for you. Imagine your thoughts are like paths in a forest. Every time you have a thought, you walk down that path. If you think the same thought again and again, that path becomes very clear, very strong, and very easy to walk on. But what happens if you stop walking on that path? Slowly, the grass starts to grow back. The path becomes weaker. At the same time, when you begin walking on a new path, a better thought, a more positive thought, that path starts to become clearer and stronger. This is exactly how your brain works. You are not stuck with your old paths. You can always create new ones. Now, what does all of this mean for you? It means you can build better thoughts. You can actually train your brain to think in new ways by choosing better thoughts every day. For example, if you always think, I can't speak English, your brain builds that path. Your brain gets used to it. That path becomes stronger and stronger. But if you start saying, I'm learning to speak English, again and again, your brain begins to build a new path. Over time, that new path becomes stronger. You start to believe it. And when you believe something, you begin to act in new ways too. This is how your brain changes. It listens to your thoughts. It watches your actions. It remembers what you do often. And then it makes those things easier for you. That's why habits are powerful. That's why thoughts are powerful. And that's why you have the power to train your brain, just like you train your body. You don't need to be a scientist to understand this. You just need to remember one simple idea. Your brain is always learning. Every time you try something new, every time you practice a new skill, every time you think a new thought, your brain is changing. Even right now, as you listen to this podcast in English, your brain is learning. You're growing. And that, my friend, is amazing. Many people say, I'm too old to change. Or my brain just doesn't work that way. But that's not true. Science shows us that people can learn new things, break old habits, and build new ways of thinking even in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or older. The brain is flexible. The brain is smart. The brain is always ready to grow if you are ready to try. Let's take one more example. Imagine you want to be more confident. If every day you tell yourself, I am confident, or I believe in myself, your brain starts to accept that as truth. But if you keep saying, I'm shy, or I'm not good enough, your brain believes that instead. Your thoughts become your truth. So choose thoughts that help you grow. Of course, this takes time. It doesn't happen in one day. Just like going to the gym, you need to train regularly. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. One small thought every day. One new action every day. That is how change happens. That is how your brain becomes stronger, smarter, and more positive. So now you know, your brain is not a rock. It is not stuck. It is not too old. It is alive, flexible, and ready to change. You just need to give it the right signals through your thoughts, your actions, and your words. You are not a prisoner of your past thinking. You are the creator of your new thinking. Remember this sentence: you can build better thoughts. Yes, you can. You're already doing it right now. And every time you listen, every time you learn, every time you practice, you are training your brain to think differently. Isn't that amazing? Why most people don't think differently. Now, let's go to the next question. If the brain can change, if we can train it to think in better ways, then why don't most people do it? That's a great question. The truth is, most people don't think differently. Not because they can't, but because there are certain habits and fears that stop them. And today, let's talk about these common habits in simple words. That way, you will understand them clearly. And even more importantly, you will learn how to change them. One of the biggest reasons people don't change their thinking is fear of failure. Nobody likes to fail. Failure doesn't feel good. Many people are afraid to try something new because they worry. What if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I'm not good enough? These thoughts stop them before they even begin. So instead of changing their thinking and learning something new, they stay exactly where they are. But here's the truth. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is part of learning. In fact, failure often teaches us more than success. When you fail, your brain gets a chance to grow. It gets a chance to adapt. It gets a chance to try again, this time with more wisdom. How to train your brain to think differently. Now that we know why most people don't think differently, let's talk about the most important part: how you can actually train your brain to think in new, better ways. Remember, your brain is like a muscle. If you exercise it regularly, it gets stronger. If you don't, it stays the same. Training your brain doesn't mean doing something complicated. It means practicing small but powerful steps every day. Here are some simple ways to start. 1. Notice your thoughts. The first step is awareness. Pay attention to what you tell yourself every day. Do you often think, I can't, I'm not good enough, or this is too hard? When you catch yourself thinking like this, pause. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me grow, or is it holding me back? 2. Replace negative thoughts with better ones. Don't just stop a negative thought, replace it.
For example,
Instead of saying, I can't speak English, say, I'm learning to speak English. Instead of, I failed, say, I learned something for next time. Instead of, this is too hard, say, this is a challenge and challenges help me grow. Over time, your brain starts to believe the better thought. 3. Practice daily affirmations. Your words shape your brain. Start each day by saying something positive about yourself. I am learning. I am growing. I am stronger than I think. This may feel strange at first, but with practice, it becomes natural and powerful. 4. Take small actions outside your comfort zone. Thinking differently isn't just about thoughts. It's also about actions. Every time you do something a little uncomfortable, like speaking one English sentence in public or trying a new idea, you show your brain that growth is safe. The more you do it, the braver your brain becomes. 5. Surround yourself with positive voices. Your environment matters. If you spend time with people who complain, doubt, or stay stuck, you will absorb their energy. But if you surround yourself with people who encourage you, support you, and believe in growth, your brain learns to think that way too. 6. Be patient and kind to yourself. Remember, training your brain is not about perfection. It's about progress. Some days you'll feel strong, and some days you'll fall back into old habits. That's okay. Growth is not a straight line. What matters is that you keep showing up, keep practicing, and keep moving forward. So, training your brain to think differently comes down to this. Notice your thoughts. Replace the ones that don't serve you. Speak better words to yourself. Take small, brave actions. Surround yourself with positivity. And be patient with the process. If you practice these steps every day, even in small ways, your brain will change. You will start to see the world differently. You will start to see yourself differently. And that's when real transformation begins. What you listen to, read, and watch every day shapes your thinking. If you are always surrounded by negative news, gossip, or criticism, your brain will naturally think in negative ways. But if you choose positive input, like podcasts, books, or people who inspire you, your brain learns to think positively, too. For example, listening to English podcasts, reading motivational books, or spending time with people who encourage you all help train your brain to focus on growth and possibilities. So, let's quickly review. Ask better questions. They lead your brain towards solutions, not problems. Write down your thoughts. This clears your mind and helps you focus on progress. Change one word. Small words create big changes in how you feel and act. Be curious. Curiosity turns fear into excitement and helps you grow. Surround yourself with positive input. Your environment feeds your brain, so choose carefully. These tips are simple, but don't underestimate their power. If you practice them every day, even for just a few minutes, your brain will begin to create new pathways. Slowly but surely, you'll notice that your thoughts become more positive, your actions become stronger, and your confidence grows. Remember, thinking differently doesn't happen in one big step. It happens in small daily steps. And the good news is, you've already started by learning about this today. What you read, what you watch, and who you spend your time with, these things have a very big impact on your thoughts. Your brain is like a sponge. It absorbs whatever you give to it. If you're always listening to negative news, gossip, or complaints, your brain will start to think in a negative way too. You may not notice it at first, but little by little those negative voices become your own inner voice. But the opposite is also true. If you choose positive input, like motivational podcasts, inspiring books, or friends who support your growth, your brain begins to absorb that positive energy. It starts to think in a stronger, healthier way. For example, if you listen to a podcast like this one every day, even for just 10 minutes, your brain becomes filled with better ideas. You don't need hours of study. A little bit every day creates a big difference over time. Slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to think differently simply because you are feeding your brain better things. Remember this, your brain is always listening. It listens to the words you use, the thoughts you repeat, the questions you ask, and the people you surround yourself with. If you give it negative input, it will give you negative output. But if you feed it good input, it will give you better output. If you train it with helpful, positive thoughts, it will help you live a better and more confident life. Let's make this real with an example. Imagine someone named Maria. Maria used to say, "I can't speak English. I always make mistakes." Every time she tried, She felt embarrassed and gave up quickly. But then Maria made a few small changes. She started writing down one good thing she learned every single day. It could be a new word, a sentence she understood, or even just the fact that she tried. She also changed her words. Instead of saying, "I can't," she began saying, "I'm trying." Instead of asking, "Why am I so bad at this?" she started asking, "What small thing can I do today to improve?" Maria also paid attention to her environment. She stopped spending time with people who laughed at her mistakes. Instead, she chose to listen to English podcasts, watch learning videos, and talk to people who encouraged her. After a few months, Maria noticed a big difference. Her thoughts became more positive. Her confidence grew. And because her confidence grew, her English improved too. This story shows us something very important. Training your brain does not require big steps. It doesn't mean you have to change your whole life in one day. It starts with one small change, one better question, one new word, one curious choice, one positive voice. Step by step, your brain follows your lead and learns to think in a whole new way. And this brings us to a powerful truth. Practice makes change. Not practice makes perfect, but practice makes progress. Just like learning English or playing a sport, changing the way you think is not a one-time action. It is something you do a little bit every day. The more you practice, the stronger the new habits become. The more you repeat, the easier it gets. So, what can you do every day to help your brain think differently? Here are some simple habits you can start immediately, even if you are busy or tired. 1. Try one new idea a day. Each day, learn something new, even something small. It could be a new English word, a new perspective on a problem, or an idea from a book or podcast. When you give your brain new ideas, it stays active and curious. At the end of the day, ask yourself, what did I learn today? This small question keeps your brain awake, growing, and ready to see the world in new ways. 2. End your day with one positive thought. Before you go to sleep, take a moment to remember one good thing from your day. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe you helped someone. Maybe you learned something new. Maybe you spoke English for 5 minutes with courage. Whatever it is, think of that one good thing and let your brain rest with it. Ending your day with positivity prepares your brain to wake up stronger and more hopeful. These habits may seem small, but they are powerful. With daily practice, they train your brain to choose better thoughts, to look for growth instead of fear, and to believe in progress instead of limits. Maybe you said something in English today. Maybe it was just one word or one small sentence. That still counts. Even the smallest steps matter. When you notice and celebrate these small things, your brain learns to focus on the good, not just the bad. And when you go to sleep with a good thought, you wake up with better energy. Over time, this simple habit brings more peace, more hope, and more confidence into your life. Here's another important daily habit. Remember this rule: one mistake equals one learning. Most people feel bad when they make mistakes. They feel embarrassed, angry, or sad. Some even stop trying because they are afraid of failing again. But mistakes are not your enemy. Mistakes are normal. In fact, mistakes are useful. Every mistake is a teacher. Instead of thinking, "I failed," try asking, "What can I learn from this?" For example, if you said something wrong in English today, don't say, "I'm terrible at English." Instead say, "Great, now I know what to improve." This small change in thinking makes a big difference. When you see mistakes as lessons, your brain stops being afraid. It becomes stronger, braver, and more open to new ideas. And here's something very simple but very powerful. Repeat a short affirmation every day. An affirmation is just a short, positive sentence you say to yourself to build belief and confidence. It doesn't need to be long or complicated. For example, try saying, I can learn, I can grow, I can think in new ways. Say it slowly. Say it with feeling. Even if you don't fully believe it yet, say it anyway. Because when you repeat something again and again, your brain starts to believe it. Your brain says, okay, this must be important. And little by little, your thinking begins to change. This is not magic. It's just practice. But practice works. You can even write your affirmation on a sticky note and put it on your mirror, your desk, or your wall. Every time you see it, say it out loud. You can also record it on your phone and listen to it in the morning or before bed. These small actions train your brain to think more positively and confidently every single day. So now you have some small but powerful daily brain habits. Learn one new thing every day. End your day with one good thought. See mistakes as learning. Repeat a positive affirmation. They may seem easy, but when you practice them every day, they become part of you. They become part of how your brain works. And the result is real change. Slow, steady, and strong. So, if you want to think differently, don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for a big moment. Start now with small daily habits. Practice them with patience, with love, and with trust. And your brain will follow.
It will grow.
It will change. And it will help you create a better, happier life, one day, one thought, one step at a time. Now, let me share a simple story with you. There was a young woman named Amina. She lived in a small town and always believed she wasn't very smart. In school, she struggled with math and science. No matter how hard she studied, her grades didn't improve. Each time she failed a test, she told herself, I'm just not good at this. Maybe I'm not smart like other students. That thought stayed with her. Slowly, her confidence began to disappear. She stopped asking questions in class. She stopped raising her hand. And little by little, she even stopped trying.
Why?
Because she already believed she couldn't change. One day, her teacher noticed this and gave her a small book about the growth mindset. The title was, You're Not Stuck. You're Still Learning. At first, Amina didn't think the book would help. But one evening, she opened it and read a few pages. The book said something very simple. Your brain is like a garden. What you plant and take care of will grow. That sentence made Amina pause. Maybe her brain wasn't broken. Maybe she had just been planting the wrong seeds. Maybe she had been watering the weeds of negative thoughts instead of the flowers of positive ones. That night, she made a decision. From then on, she would plant new seeds, better thoughts, stronger beliefs, and daily habits that would help her grow. That night, Amina did something different. Instead of saying, I'm not smart, she told herself, I'm still learning, and I can improve. That one small change made her feel a little lighter, a little stronger. The next time she got a math question wrong, she didn't call herself stupid. She didn't give up. Instead, she felt curious. She asked herself, what did I miss? How can I understand this better? That curiosity was new for her. She also started a small notebook. Every night before bed, she wrote down one mistake she made that day and what she learned from it. At first, it felt strange. But after a few weeks, she began to notice something. Her mistakes were actually helping her. They were showing her where she needed to grow. Slowly, her confidence began to return. She stopped being afraid to raise her hand in class. Even if she didn't always get the answer right, she still tried. And something amazing happened. Her classmates noticed. They began to see her as someone who was brave enough to ask good questions. Her teacher noticed too. After 6 months of practicing this new way of thinking, Amina finally passed a big math exam. It wasn't a perfect score, but it was her best result ever. Her teacher smiled and said, "See, you trained your brain to think differently." Amina laughed and replied, "It's true. I didn't need a new brain. I just needed new thoughts." This story shows us something powerful. Changing how you think really can change your life. Amina didn't suddenly become a genius. She didn't find a secret formula. She simply stopped believing the old story that said she wasn't smart, and she replaced it with a new story. I can learn. I can grow. I'm not stuck. That one new belief changed her actions. And her new actions changed her results. Many people are like Amina. They think one bad result means they will never succeed. They think one mistake means they're not good enough. But the truth is, one mistake can be the beginning of something better if we use it to learn, to grow, and to keep going. You don't need a perfect brain. You don't need to get everything right the first time. All you need is a brain that is willing to try again, to think differently, and to believe in the power of small daily changes. So let me ask you, what old thought do you need to change today? Maybe your thought is, "I'm not good at English." Maybe it's, "I always fail." Maybe it's, "I'm too old to learn." Whatever it is, I want you to pause, take that thought and change it. Turn it into something better, something kinder, something more helpful.
For example,
"I'm not good at English" becomes, "I'm still learning, and I can improve." "I always fail" becomes, "I make mistakes, but I learn from them." "I'm too old to learn" becomes, "It's never too late to grow." Let's take a moment to remember the big lesson of this episode. Your brain is not fixed. It can grow. It can improve. It can learn new ways of thinking. That is the message I want you to take with you. You are not stuck with the way you think today. You can change your thoughts. You can change your beliefs. And step by step, you can change your life. Science has a word for this: neuroplasticity. That's just a big word that means your brain can build new paths and new habits with practice. Like a muscle, the more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Most people repeat the same old thoughts every single day without even noticing. Thoughts like fear, self-doubt, and negativity. But once you become aware of these patterns, you can start to break them. You can ask better questions. You can write your thoughts down. You can change just one word from "I can't" to "I can try." And these small changes, when you practice them every day, begin to rewire your brain. So let me ask you again, what is one thought you want to change today? Maybe it's, "I'm not smart enough." Maybe it's, "I can't do this." Can you turn it into something better? Something hopeful? Like, "I'm still learning." Or, "This is hard, but I can improve." Remember, you are always just one thought away from a better life. One small change, just one new thought, can start a big shift in your mindset. And now I want to ask you a simple question. How will you train your brain tomorrow? Will you read something new, even just a little? Will you say a positive thought out loud, to yourself or to someone else? Will you look at a mistake from today and ask, "What can I learn from this?" These questions are not just for today. You can return to them anytime you want. If you want to grow, you must start thinking about your thinking. That is where real change begins, one small step at a time. I also want to encourage you to listen to this episode again. Each time you listen, you will understand more. Your English listening skills will improve, your vocabulary will grow, and your brain will continue to learn and build new paths. Repetition is one of the best tools for growth. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. You never know who might need a little encouragement today. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. This show is here to help you grow, step by step, word by word, thought by thought. Finally, remember this. Every day is a new chance to think differently and grow. You have the power. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You can start right now. One new idea, one new word, one new thought, and your life can begin to change. Thank you so much for listening. Keep going, keep learning, and keep growing. Your brain is ready. You are ready. And your best self is waiting to emerge, one thought at a time.